Anyway, bottom line, the only way I could get out of Fort Benning was to go to Alaska. And I wasn't sure about it. I was like, I don't know about this stuff. And my wife was like, let's go. And I was like, okay, everything that my wife's, because I've been married 33 years now, freaking everything my wife has told me, let's do that, has been exactly the right freaking thing to do, man. I cannot tell you. So went to Alaska in 05 and spent 6 years up there.
How cold is, like, for anyone that, you were jumping in?
Negative 30 was the coldest that I've jumped in. You know what I'm saying? But we've, folks have jumped up there, as low as negative 45 up on the slope and some of the other areas. But
and then you're up, was it every 1,000 feet is like at 10 degrees or 7 degrees difference? You
know the deal. I mean, it's wind velocity, the rest of that, but you're so hyped. You don't really feel it till you get to the ground, and then you're like, oh, I can't move my hands. You know what I'm saying? But you figure it out. It's cool. But the truth is, so remember, in Alaska, 2 separate places, right? You've got Anchorage, okay, where the Airborne Brigade is at, 211 currently, right? And then up north is 111, Arctic Wolves, right, which is a light BCT, right? That's our true Arctic guys. So it gets negative 45. It was negative 52 was probably the coldest that I experienced up there. Those guys just got done, matter of fact, with a couple of weeks of hardcore out in the field, friggin', and our mark of, hey, we got the right conditions was they had to stop training. So when it gets to negative 35, the reality of what you're doing is you're going to go to ground and try to survive.
So is that negative 35? Is that the straight temperature? Or is that temperature and wind chill?
No, that's straight temperature.
That's
straight temperature.
No, man.
So wind chill, it's like negative 60.
Yeah.
My fear was getting stationed in Alaska when I was like, it was like, oh, they're going to send you wherever the Army is going to send you. I was like, oh, please not Alaska. Like, my Mexican ass would have died.
No shit, right? Did you already like the cold before that?
No.
So that was
no. That's what I tried. So I grew up in the South. So actually, I've been a member of or dependent on the Army since the day I was born. My dad's a retired W3 helicopter pilot, Vietnam vet. I graduated high school at Fort Campbell High School. Went to Auburn University where I failed out miserably pretty quickly. But I've always been in the South, rode motorcycles, drank beer, fish, that kind of stuff. And so the idea of going to Alaska was whatever, but I did not want to go to Fort Hood or to Fort Riley at the time. A lot of ego involved there. You know what I'm saying? The reality of being an airborne infantryman is kind of, you get real stuck on you want to do your thing. And the only place I could go jump out of airplanes at the time was to go to Alaska. But we got up there. I'm an Alaska resident now. I freaking love that place, man. Literally love Alaska.
11th Airborne Division is like the most underrated airborne division by far.
Yep.
World War II, you guys were the only division to go into the Pacific.
Yep.
You had
now you're just sucking.
Arguable. No, I'm serious. Like the 11th Airborne Division in World War II had like the most textbook perfect airborne operation ever when they raided Los Banos prison camp.
100%.
So it was awesome.
Oh, the bottom line, they were basically MacArthur's secret weapon.
Yeah.
In the end, they did not want to publicize a whole lot about what the division was doing. Some of the crazy airborne stuff they did there, whether it was inserting replacements through freaking L4 Stinsons, like dudes were jumping in. They're like, hey, you show up as a replacement, as a new lieutenant or something like that to wherever, and they're like, hey, you got to get out to the guys. So get in this airplane. You're going to jump out and join them. You know what I'm saying? And then whether it was a combination amphibious, that's the big thing about the Pacific period, right? Like in the end, I love Marines to death, right? Because they are some pretty badass dudes. But what everybody doesn't know is they've also got the best PO in the services, right? They will pump themselves up, right? That's the way it is. It's always been that way in the Pacific too, right? The reality is the majority of the amphibious landings were done by the United States Army, okay? The biggest ones, right? Like most of that fighting. I mean, I'm not trying to take away from them, but the reality is everybody forgets. Whenever you talk about the Pacific, you're really talking about the Army, okay? And then particularly for the Airborne Force, talking about 11th Airborne.
11th Airborne was designated as, weren't they the designated guard for the president when he came over on USS Missouri,
Yep.
and they signed the
100%
surrender,
Yep.
and they chose the 11th Airborne to
Yep.
be the security on hand.
They did. Yeah, we were actually 11th Airborne was actually in Japan before, or one of the first elements to get in Japan.
I know
So-
Nick would know all this.
Yeah, I know.
Of course you
You're
are.
tickling his tism right
Oh,
there.
yeah,
This
he's
is,
so happy.
Well,
The audience is happy too. Like,
and it's a big deal. Like, so it was a big deal to get RESA designated too, right? So again, I told you in 05, I went up to Alaska and joined this new brigade. It was called 425, okay? And from 05 until 22, that brigade was the 4th Brigade of the 25th, but we had zero connection to the 25th Infantry Division. Like, it was just a designation. And then the one up north was 125, okay? And they had strikers. Like, why you would have strikers in Alaska? Like, they won't go anywhere in the
Yeah, they
snow.
would be
They
stuck.
forget, yeah. I mean, I
like
actually was-
120,000. It was like 60 to 120,000 pounds. Like they are.
Yeah,
they
it's,
have 8 wheels, but in mud.
Well, I mean, all that stuff was congressional stuff that from when then. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I gotta be careful what I say, but the
that
bottom,
soapbox, you were about to pull it out.
But the bottom line is, you know, we had some issues up in Alaska, right? And luckily, senior leadership recognized that, hey, the majority, a lot of what we have problems with in the Army have less to do with money and programs and more to do with identity and purpose and grit and resilience and remembering that soldiers are here to be soldiers, right? Like, we're here to train. Like, most of the problems, you know this, right? Like, you probably didn't mind doing company live fires or FTXs or whatever else. What you hated was being in the freaking cough, freaking running a freaking broom or not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And
real quick.
you know, and then identity matters, right? Like, I mean, we're very tribal in the Army. That's the reality. You got the 82nd Plane Gang, right? You got your freaking tankers are, you know, Hood and Bliss, you know, and so that 11th Airborne designation makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? You put that patch on and you got a connection to a history that's unique, a history and a legacy you got to live up to.
I like that, though. The identity matters. The Biden admin, I think, was actually really good about that as far as, you know, gender identity mattered.
Why you gotta go there, man? like, why you gotta go there? Like, hey, look.
Soft pitches, man. Soft pitches.
No. I mean, like, I'm not here to, you know, the reality of it comes down to we want to be a standards-based Army. We should be a standards-based Army. We are. That's the way our leaders see it. You know, it's a standards-based Army. If you can perform, then I want you around. Okay. If you can, but the big one that nobody really talks about is availability. Right? I'll tell you that one, right? Like, you ever watch NBA or football, right? Like, one of the values of a player is how much are they available? How much do they get hurt? How much are they there to play? Like, you can pay this guy, can be the most talented person in wherever, but if they're getting hurt all the time, how much value are they, right?
True.
Well, same thing in the Army, right? Like, hey, we need guys to be there. We need guys that are consistent. You know, we need soldiers are. Oh, crap. You got Chris Molinax, man. That dude's a freaking rock star. So, you know, the reality is, you know, I'm just a sergeant major. I've been very lucky to serve an Army this long, you know, and to get to do what I get to do, you know. Once, you know, I told you there's an identity, right? And so I've been an infantryman, I've been a Blue Corps wearing guy since 1990. That's very much a part of your identity, right? Oh, yeah. And to get to lead people, right? Like, I don't think people understand the value in their life, right, of what it means to be in these positions and have the opportunities, right, to both serve with, but then lead, right? And to gain people's respect, like to work that hard and to gain that respect, right, doesn't have a value on it, you know? And I just hope that we get away from some identity politics, okay, right? Because my identity is Army. It's this color, right? And in the end, I value all my soldiers based on what they can do, all right, and what their potential is, right? Because that's what sergeant majors do. What sergeant majors really do is we develop people, right? We develop the next leaders. We develop the next, and we do that by providing them opportunity, by providing them a direction, right? By sometimes making them go in a direction they need to go in, by sometimes doing, other things. But in the end, the best thing that I've ever done in the Army is develop a bunch of people, right, who are now even ahead of me.